Time to go to the Farm Bureau phone line. Check out favorites.com and go with the home team, Mississippi Farm Bureau. We had so much fun last time. He was kind enough to spend an hour with us. Ben Mintz from Barstool Sports joining us from NYC. Mincy, what's up, man?
Oh, man, a whole lot this week. Just really excited about the NCAA baseball tournament. I'm actually heading to New Orleans this weekend, too. I'm emceeing and hosting Hogs to the Cause, which is a huge barbecue and music fest that raises millions of dollars for families fighting pediatric brain cancer. So I don't really know how I'm going to juggle emceeing this and watching games on the side TV by the stage. It's going to be a crazy weekend for sure.
Well, I know this is something that you've been looking forward to, this event in New Orleans. I was going to ask you what the viewing setup was going to be in New York, but I guess that's out the window, which is obviously being in New Orleans is going to be great for you, but you had a chance to do something that maybe had never been before, like create this ultimate viewing party in New York City for college baseball regional weekend.
Yeah, and it's exciting. I got to tell you, we're having a great. So it's funny because I saw the value when I got here. You know, part of they want me to build us in the South and the Southeast, and obviously I'm a huge love Ole Miss baseball, and love SEC baseball, and you know I saw that as something Barstool just wasn't doing or touching at all, and so I started going real hard at it a couple of months ago. And really feeling good about the growth of it. We launched shirts on Monday, Barstool and Omaha shirts, and a bunch of the sizes snaps sold out. And then also today, huge thing, so the Barstool Sportsbook has put up odds to win the College World Series and odds to win each regional, and it's actually up at the Sportsbook to Mississippi too. So I'm really excited to see that too. So, yeah, some good developments.
It really is kind of cool. So we've got great friends with Pearl River Resort, the Golden Moon, and Silver Star and Dancing Rabbit and all those folks. And for, I don't know, a couple of months, I feel like there was nobody else in the country that was putting out lines on college baseball. But this feels like a sign of growth for the game that we love so much. If sports books are getting involved, I'm curious what kind of action they're getting. Are people interested?
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting for us because ours is the Barstool app's live in Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. So, you know, not exactly college baseball hotbeds, even with Notre Dame having a strong year in the ACC. And that, that Notre Dame Michigan regional, we think we'll get some action, but. I think it's kind of one of those things. They always say it's like the field of dreams. If you build it, they will come. And I'm just going real hard with it. I'm getting a good response. And I think the future of it for us up here, if it's going to work long term here, we're going to have the gambling lines on it for the Barstool Sportsbook and Penn. But I'm glad to hear. Got to give props to Philly for going ahead and doing that because I know they've had them all year. I mean, I certainly. Respect them for doing that. But either way, I think it's all steps in the right direction. And I'm just really getting excited, too. I've never been to Omaha because the year Ole Miss made it in 2014, I always swore I'd go. But that was right when I'd crawled back to Oxford on my knees and I was dead broke back in school. And so I've never been to the College World Series. So I'm really, really excited about that in a couple of weeks, too. Hope the Rebels do it.
Ben, I will share with you a story that I won't say it was financial ruin, but it was one of the first of probably more than one financial mistakes that I made along the way. So circle back to 2004, I think it was. I was in undergrad, and at that point in my life, had never had a credit card. And Ole Miss had climbed in the top 5, and I was convinced that they were going to the College World Series. And I did not have the money to pay for a trip to the College World Series. And so with about 6 weeks left in the regular season, I applied for a credit card, and I got it. And I thought it was I think it had a $4,500 limit. Maybe it was a $3,000 limit. Felt like all the money in the world. Ole Miss tanked, didn't even make it to Hoover for the SEC tournament, and stupid for me, I didn't cut up the credit card.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Man, that's tough. That is a tough one. That one stings a little bit. Did you leave? You didn't even go to Omaha because Ole Miss didn't go. You didn't go just to go.
No. I swore that I was not going to go until Ole Miss went, and then guess when the first time I went was? Guess when the first time I went was?
14, then, huh?
Nope. I went the year before in 2013 to watch Mississippi State against UCLA in the championship
series. They made
series.
the title game when they played Garrett Cole and Bauer. Oh, man.
That's exactly right. So none of my Omaha plans have quite worked out the way that I thought they would have, but man, what a cool event and a cool environment. And I'm so jazzed up that obviously it's been the case in Mississippi for a while, but with the NCAA saying y'all come, they've gone 100% everywhere. It's going to be packed house all the way through. It's going to look like what it's supposed to look like.
No, and I think the thing, too, that we're seeing, and I'm sure y'all are, obviously we've seen this with the Mississippi baseball crowd, but look all over the country, whether it's the PGA Championship in Charleston or the Indy 500 or the Plus, man, people have been pent up for over a year. I mean, I think Omaha is going to be even more of a throwdown this year than it usually is because they didn't have it last year. I mean, obviously, so much of Omaha's atmosphere depends on, which the SEC schools and the Texas schools that bring tons of fans go. But, I mean, I'm having a hard time not imagining a bunch of SEC schools being involved this year. And so I'm actually, it's definitely better the more big fan bases to go. And we've got a few of our guys talking about, Brandon Walker's talking about going only if Mississippi State goes, by the way, which I think is pretty funny. So I'm watching that pretty close, and a couple of other baseball guys are going to go. And so I'm just super excited to just check out the whole thing.
All right, so you're going regardless. Brandon is only going if Mississippi State goes. I mean, if Ole Miss doesn't get there but Mississippi State does and he's there while you're there, I'm saying he's rubbing it in a little bit.
I'm sure he will, but I'm still going regardless because I'm excited to build this for us. And, I feel like I'm trying to come up with a scenario in my mind that Arkansas doesn't make it. It's hard to even imagine it. The way they've played. And Fayetteville's only 5.5 hours from Omaha, so I feel like the entire state from them is going to be up there. But, yeah, I mean, like I said, I think it's better the more big SEC schools to make it, the better. So we'll see what happens.
No question.
I mean, seven hosts out of 16.
All right, so rewind back to Monday. The field gets announced. You see all 64 teams. We get the 16 sites, and kind of things are laid out. What were some of your initial impressions?
Well, I mean, obviously, like any Ole Miss fan, it was interesting. So I watched a lot of that Conference USA tournament last week. Man, I don't know if y'all saw those two Saturday games between Southern Miss and Louisiana Tech, two of the craziest
they were insane
games I've ever seen. And Southern Miss, I love. I have so much respect for their program. But how are you going to put a kid that's never thrown a pitch in college baseball out there to close whether you're making regional or not? That was the craziest thing I've ever seen. They're up 5-2. In the ninth Saturday.
But he did well enough for him to win. Yeah,
he did. If the kid didn't drop the ball, you're right. That second baseman in shallow right missed the ball. You're right. But I just feel like the way the bracket ended up being seeded, if Southern Miss beats Tech, Southern's the 16 seed, and Tech's the 2 seed in Oxford. I feel like that was a lot to play for. But I do understand, they got to manage their pitching staffs, and Southern Miss, has a heck of a program for reasons. I don't want to second guess everything. And they have a super strong pitching staff, which obviously concerns me. You look at Florida State, Matthew Nelson, that catcher, is one of the leading home run hitters in college baseball. He's a monster. Parker Messick, the Florida State ace, is a boy. He's like 6'6", 280. I don't know if y'all seen him pitch. Dude's a hoss. He's a big boy. So tough regional for the Rebels. I did think it was interesting. I'm sure y'all discussed Bianco deciding to go with Diamond on Friday, which I like. I saw Borky tweeted about it too. I mean, it's one of the things, even if Ole Miss loses, I think this is the right move to win the regional because, when you look at how tough this regional is, I think you got to have Nikhazy go against Southern Miss or Florida State Saturday and be in the winner's bracket and make those teams have to fight out of the loser's bracket to win. So, win or lose, I like that decision by Bianco. Some other quick thoughts around baseball. Pumped for Louisiana Tech. I used to cover their baseball program when I was in Shreveport. I mean, you're talking about a town that got destroyed by a tornado in 2019. They were playing at Ruston High School, traveling on the road. They had to play at UL Monroe. The first year they built back their stadium to host their first ever regional. I mean, it's hard not to pull for Lane Burroughs and those guys. I think it's a fascinating story. And I thought it was interesting. LSU barely snuck in and got sent out to Oregon for the end of the Maneri run, too.
Certainly is going to be interesting as we roll into the first weekend of baseball postseason. You got a couple of minutes to hang with us and get some more thoughts?
I'm kicking it. I definitely want to mention State's got the week regional, too. I'm here as long as I'll name you. I'll take it out.
You got Haydad's attention, and you got him shaking his head just a little bit. So we'll talk about Mississippi State's path. But if you're a Mississippi State fan, it gives you a lot of reason, I think, to be excited. More coming up with Ben Mintz from Barstool Sports. He is with us on the Farm Bureau phone line. We got back with you on Sports Talk Mississippi, streaming at supertalk.fm, continuing our conversation with Ben Mintz from Barstool Sports. He has made it his personal mission to grow the game of college baseball. And there's a little bit of, business behind it as well on the Barstool side of things. We were walking through some of the regionals though, Ben, and you took I don't know if it was a swipe or if it was just kind of what you thought about Mississippi State's regional. They've got Samford, team they beat in the regular season, in game number 1, and then Campbell is one of the other teams in the Starkville regional, and VCU as well. Here's the argument that I've made, and people keep coming back. Well, collective RPI, and it makes it one of the more difficult regionals. That doesn't seem to be the way a lot of non-Mississippi State fans are looking at it. If I'm a State fan, I am thrilled with this draw, because what I've said is there's only one goal this weekend. And it's to win 3 games and get to a super regional. There's no valor in having a difficult route to those 3 wins.
Well, I mean, I look at the state thing. Look, I don't want to slide it too bad. Virginia Commonwealth, VCU's won 21 games in a row. And I know the Atlantic 10 is by no means a strong baseball conference. But, man, it's hard to win 21 games in a row if you're playing D3 teams. I mean, that's a strong accomplishment in baseball where the edges are so small. So I did think they were going to be a 3 seed because the conference they came out of. But, you got to give State some credit, too. They won 20 SEC games, and so that's kind of, Ole Miss, has a few they'd like to have back, namely that the A&M series certainly comes to mind. And so, you win 20 games in the SEC, you're generally going to be a top 8 national seed. So, good for them. I do think the big thing for State on the advantage is the dude effect against these schools that, VCU and Campbell. I know Samford's played there in the regular season, and Samford won a game at Florida State 2 years ago in 2019 in the tournament, and they still got that same starting pitcher who's pitching against State. So they're no joke. But you look at those smaller schools who play in front of a few hundred fans, and they got to go play in the dude in the NCAA tournament. I mean, that's a tough environment for schools that aren't used to playing in that kind of a deal.
And you alluded to it a second ago as well, the dude effect. Mississippi State, in the postseason especially, has been so good at home, and they've been so good at home for decades in the postseason, going back to the Burke Masters magic with the Grand Slam, and so many times where they've just gotten it done, and it just feels like Mississippi State feeds off of that crowd. And they play with a confidence that isn't seen in a lot of places when they are in their home ballpark trying to get to the College World Series.
Yeah, and they're getting the 7 seed, too. They're matched up with that Notre Dame regional, which is an interesting one because Notre Dame won the ACC regular season. They're one of the stories of college baseball. They have a really good pitching staff. It's Notre Dame, Michigan, UConn, Central Michigan, who I know played Mississippi State a couple of years ago in Starkville. But you got to feel pretty good if you're a State fan about the draw. And I know a lot's been discussed. I mean, obviously, we're in talk radio and sports radio. A lot's been discussed about what happened to State in the SEC tournament. But at the end of the day, the fact that, Florida and Tennessee being, number 15 and number 3 national seeds, losing those teams didn't really hurt them too bad.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. I've asked this question to a couple of people. I'll give it to you as well. Arkansas, the number 1 national seed, Texas, the number 2, Tennessee, the 3, and Vanderbilt, the 4. Of those top 4 national seeds, who do you think is the least likely to make it to Omaha, to make it to the College World Series?
At least, Tennessee's matched up with that Oregon, LSU, Gonzaga regional. Tennessee does not have an easy regional, by the way. Right. Duke's red hot, winning the ACC tournament, and then Wright State averages over 10 runs a game, who they got to play in that first game, and so that one's not the easiest. I'd say of those 4, I'd say Arkansas. You look at it, Nebraska's a strong number 2 seed, though. Their fans were super upset. They won the Big Ten. Their fans were so mad that they got sent to Arkansas because they thought they were a top 25 team and a strong 2. But when you look at Arkansas's matchup with that Louisiana Tech regional, and I think Tech's a great story, but I don't think they have the pitching staff depth to compete with Arkansas. And
Wait,
so I feel
so
like
you think Arkansas is the most likely to get there, not the least likely?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry. I missed that. The least like I'm sorry. I misheard the question about that. The least likely, man, Texas has Florida. They've got Fairfield in that regional. I think I'll go with Texas, but Texas or Tennessee is the answer. I think Vandy and Arkansas are both going to make it. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. When it's all said and done, have you looked at the regional closely enough to, or kind of the entire bracket, to decide how many SEC teams you think end up in Omaha?
Well, people have said the over-under is 3.5. With 7 are hosting. Obviously, South Carolina's the number 2 seed, getting to host at Founders Park in that Old Dominion regional. Man, I'm going to say 4. I'm going to go optimistic and say 4. I'm going high. I think the SEC is going to dominate this thing. I'm also just putting this out in the universe because me going to Omaha, I think the more SEC teams, the better. My birthday was the other night when I blew my candle out. I wish for all this to make Omaha. So we're trying to put the positive energy into the universe here.
How many candles on the birthday cake, Ben?
Oh, 38, man. But I feel young. It's 38 years old. Didn't realize I'd be living in a little closet in Hell's Kitchen in Manhattan at this point in my life. But doing good. It's been a interesting 7 months. Dave Portnoy has been messing with me a bunch about this college baseball lately too. Y'all keep an eye on this. He was saying on his show the other day, he was like waiting on. He's going to take my gambling picks and stuff on Omaha and stuff. So that'll be hope I give him some winners because I'm going to get body bagged publicly if I don't. I can tell you that. It's something dealing with him day to day.
Is Dave latching on to college baseball?
I don't know. So Dave, he's been messing with me a bunch lately. Which I'm a very easy target, and so I thought that was inevitable when I got hired that I would get in his crosshairs because that's certainly part of the deal here. But I think he likes baseball. He was a really good high school baseball player. I started pushing it here, and he was kind of, at first he's kind of like prove it to me because he's a Northeast guy, and so up here all people care about are Red Sox, Yankees, Mets, Phillies. But I'm trying to build us in the South, and I've told him I was like, look, man, our fans, the SEC fans, care a lot about it. And, we're as long as we can push merchandise and see how these lines and stuff do. The big thing is about it making money for the company, and I think we're on the way to doing it. But I wonder. I mean, he went to Michigan, but it doesn't seem like he's too diehard in Michigan baseball, even though they won national runner-up 2 years ago.
Yeah, certainly so. Ben, it's always fun to catch up. No, it's going to be a great weekend. Wish you all the best with the big event down in New Orleans coming up, and just knock them out on that. Raise a bunch of money for those kids, and enjoy the college baseball weekend coming up, my man. Good to catch up with you again.
Yeah, hope I'll see y'all in Omaha in a couple weeks. And hey, whoever's running y'all's DJing, Grateful Dead off Thea and Panic One Arm Steve, good job. I'm impressed.
You know who
that's
that was.
Borky. That's Borky spinning the records.
Hey man, I was loving it. But thank y'all for having me. I appreciate y'all having me on, and let's see. Let's hope Ole Miss and State have a good weekend.
Certainly so. That's Ben Mintz from Barstool Sports visiting with us, talking some college baseball. Joining us on the Farm Bureau phone line, check out favorites.com and go with the home team, Mississippi Farm Bureau. Guys, really first time we've touched on that this week. When you look at the overall bracket, how many SEC teams do you think end up in Omaha? Just Ben said he thinks the total is 3.5 for the over-under. I lean Arkansas, yes, and Vandy, yes, and Mississippi State, yes, and after that, I'm not entirely sure.
Well, you just said earlier you think Florida has a great chance to knock off Texas, and I would agree with that. So I think either Florida or Ole Miss could end up there. So I would take the over.
Yeah, give me 4. Those 3 in a combination of Florida or Ole Miss.
And in terms of side of the bracket, you would have Arkansas and Vanderbilt on that side of the bracket, and then potentially Ole Miss could be on that side of the bracket as well. And then on the opposite side of the bracket, you would have
you'd have State.
If Florida advanced, they would be there. State would be on that side of the bracket.
Yeah.
In fact, if Mississippi State makes it as the 7 seed, who would their first game be against?
In your scenario, it would be against Florida, wouldn't it?
Is that right?
because they would play the winner from the 2-7 or the 2-15. They would be matched up against the 2. And in this case,
Are we
the 2
selling
was out.
Tennessee short? They're really good.
Maybe, but it feels like everybody's talked ourselves into their regional is so tough. The SEC is tough, and they went 20-10.
Yeah, you're right. Sports Talk Mississippi with you, streaming at supertalk.fm. A lot of people chiming in with they think Ben Mintz sounds like. We got one that says Ben sounds like a comedian. I can't think of his name. Nice guy. There was one that said Quinn asked if that was Tom Arnold that was on there.
Oh, man.
John in Vance says he sounds just like Patrick Mahomes.
Mahomes is a good one.
Half an hour.